Welcome to Living from the Inside Out with Holly Wade. Living from the Inside Out is about living fully, guided from your inside. Holly shares the wisdom of how your mind, body, and spirit are truly connected and that you deep down know your own answers. Holly and her guests will provide tips, practices, and inspirational stories to help you approach your life from your own heart. And here's Holly.
Hey everyone, this is Holly Wade with Living from the Inside Out. I am your mind-body expert, and I've got my friend Jennifer Vaaler on today, and she is a time management and productivity expert. And the commonality that we both have is that we've really had to learn how to recognize our energy levels throughout the day and what sucks our energy, what gives us energy. And that's because we both live with a chronic condition. And that's a whole different ballgame in terms of your time and your productivity and how you feel. So that's going to be the basis of our discussion today. So Jennifer, let's start with you and have you share with everyone kind of what it is that you're living with and how that has affected your own time management, because you're an entrepreneur too.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay, so hi, I'm Jennifer. I am from the Simplified Office. I am a business and home office strategist. So I use my skill set between business, marketing, interior design, and pro organizing to help overwhelm service-based business owners through the process of goal setting, time management, and organizing and decluttering their physical home office.
Nice.
So I was early last year, 2017, I was diagnosed with neurocardiogenic syncope.
So what is that? Tell us a little bit of what that is, because that is one that I was like, wow, I remember when you were diagnosed and I was like, I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's something that it's kind of hard to pinpoint, and people have gone years without being diagnosed or diagnosed properly.
Yeah.
So
it kind of falls in the autoimmune category, right?
Mine's more of a neurological heart combination, because they don't talk to each other fast enough.
Okay.
So what that means is my blood pressure can drop, and then I start feeling really dizzy and weak and nauseated, and I feel like I'm going to pass out.
And you have actually passed out, haven't you? Because that was kind of scary.
Yeah,
I remember you sharing a few things with me, like, what is going on? And that was really, really scary.
Yeah, so I'm naturally a really cold-natured person. So if I start feeling really hot all of a sudden, I know something's wrong. So at least I can feel it coming on. Not everyone can do that. It varies person to person. But I don't pass out like I used to, but I am still pretty symptomatic, but I can at least feel it coming on. So I know what to do to kind of prevent it, I guess.
So you've learned to work with it, to understand it a little bit better, and to understand how you need to, like, all right, here's the signal. It's time to step back a little bit, or whatever the case may be.
Right. It takes me twice as long to get ready in the morning. Heat is a trigger. I can't have my shower too hot. So summers are really rough for me.
Gotcha.
It can't be too hot in the house. Just different things.
Gotcha. So tell us a little bit about what happened. Like, what was life like before you understood that this was coming on, or that you had these symptoms? And so give us a little preview of your background, just to kind of give us some context.
Right. So I've dealt with chronic depression most of my life. That's also another big trigger, is stress. And
that's a trigger for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the symptoms of depression is similar to what starts making me symptomatic. They kind of meld together. So I'm still learning how to differentiate the two. Be like, okay, I'm just feeling bad emotionally instead of physically, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So before, it was just like, I'm naturally a morning person. So like my most productive part of the day is like 8 to 12. It still is, but I would just go all day. I wouldn't, I refuse naps. If I was sleepy, I just kind of hold out because I wanted to sleep well at night, and I'm very strict about when I go to bed and when I get up to make sure I get a good amount of sleep. I said yes to a lot of things, worked a lot of hours.
Well, prior to being an entrepreneur, you were a barista and you managed a coffee shop, right?
Yeah, and owned and operated a coffee drive-through.
So I can imagine that was a lot of time and a lot of hours, and because that's on you.
Yeah, for the drive-through, it was 6 to 6 every day until I hired someone. So that, and even then, it was still at least 4 days a week. It was 6 to 6.
Yeah. And that's that push.
Luckily, I loved it, so it wasn't too bad. And during that time, I had to I've always been a procrastinator. I always use a paper planner, but I didn't really have my time management and goal setting to what it is now until I owned the coffee drive-through. Because I was doing everything myself except the financial part. And I just had to be able to stay on top of things. And I had such a tiny space to work with. So I had to utilize that space to be super efficient, make sure the line kept going. And you couldn't order too much or too little, or I didn't have anywhere else to put it.
Right.
So it was a juggling act. But then I finally got a schedule down. I'm like, wow, what's all this extra time I've got now?
So let's fast forward a little bit, because that's kind of that background. So you had to learn these skills. You had to manage all of that. And then you come into the last couple of years, moving into toward entrepreneurship. And you're still applying those skills.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to learn how to do that within the constraints of your condition.
Yeah. Yeah, because right before I was diagnosed, I was working 2 part-time jobs. So I was on my feet 8 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
6, 7 hours a week. I think that's what really, because all my life I have had some symptoms, but they never affected my daily life. I think having the 2 part-time jobs and on my feet so much, and every job I've ever had, I'm always on my feet. I think that's what triggered the whole thing. And it was like my body's like, okay, enough of this crazy.
Done.
Time to shut down for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the body will always tell us.
Yeah.
Our body will always say, hey, time to take care of you. I need some help. I need some attention. You're doing too much. Yeah.
So I go from, oh, awesome, standing, helping customers, and then I need to lay down on the floor before I pass out. I have to put my feet up so my blood rushes from my feet back to my heart faster, and just wait for my temperature to go down because I was burning up, and then had to, it was kind of scary.
That had to be really frightening, especially because you didn't know what was going on yet.
Well, that, and some people thought I was just wanting attention. That's a common thing, because you don't know what's going on, and there's so many symptoms similar to a lot of other things. Yeah. That a lot of doctors bounce you around.
They miss it.
Multiple opinions. I was one of the lucky ones. My cardiologist actually has a child with it. So I was very lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people take 5 years or more before they're diagnosed.
I love that you brought up that people thought you were seeking attention, because when I was hitting my crisis 3-4 years ago, that spiral downward was actually about a 2-year spiral for me. And the behind the scenes is that I didn't feel like I could take the time off. I didn't feel like my staff at the time would be able to fill in order. I felt like everything that I had worked for in that 7 years in my job was going to crumble around a group of 18, 19, 20-year-olds. I felt like my career was based on that. And I really needed to work through until I could get that set up for them. And one of the things that came up in that was the same thing, that I was seeking attention. And the naturopathic world, unfortunately, can put that guilt trip on us. It's like the shame of the medical side is one aspect of it. And then there's a different shaming in the alternative medicine side. And it doesn't feel good either way. You're caught in between. And I recently started reading this book, and in the first chapter, in the first couple pages, one of the things that he says is, it's not your fault. And like just reading that, you did not create this. You didn't, that released so much in this, because we're questioning all the time when you're seeking that diagnosis. And even after you have a diagnosis, when the symptoms start to arise, there's this question of, what did I do? What did I eat? What did I, you kind of go into this tailspin panic of, what did I do to create this right now? And sometimes we got to just release the shame and the guilt around all that, because maybe we didn't do a darn thing.
Yeah, especially when there's not necessarily a cure, but it's just something part of us from the beginning. Like for mine, it's just people can have it when they're younger, and then it goes away for a while, or they're able to manage it for a while and it doesn't affect them as much.
Right.
And then they're fine for a while too. And then they go back to work and no problem.
Right.
Well, I haven't been able to go back to a regular part-time job since April. And it's April 2017, and it's now February 2018.
Right.
And
that just might not be a possibility for you.
Like even an office job, I'm not sure about. Yeah. Because I can't stand more than 30, 45 minutes at a time. And after I've done that once, the time goes down for the next time I stand up and walk around.
Yeah.
And I need to be able to lay down if I need to. I need to sleep if I need to.
Yeah.
So a regular job just doesn't make sense right now, which is why I'm just trying to focus on the business so I can make it work around me instead.
So let's talk exactly about that, because you helped me with a 90-minute intensive last week. And the thing is, it's not anything that I didn't know. I know how to map out my time. I know how to plot things in. I know how to prioritize. I've done that for so many years, working in higher ed and in my other careers and jobs, because I had to. That was the only way to get everything done, because there's this impossible amount of things to achieve every day. And that was the only way I could function. It just had to be done that way. And I think because of that, I really resisted and rebelled against it for the last couple years. And yet working through that and reestablishing somewhat of a routine, but having enough in there and enough flexibility, I've really noticed that difference in the last couple weeks. So talk us through how you've done that for yourself, and I'll interject some of the things that have helped me, because there were things that I understood about my own energy flow through the day that I think is really helpful in understanding how to plot out your time.
Yeah. So like I said, my most productive part of the day is 8 to 12. Well, if I'm having what I call a bad body day, well, I'm just going to sleep if I need to and rest if I need to. I'll work in bed if I am able to sit up and function a little better.
Yeah.
But if there's brain fog and you're not able to focus and think straight, it's impossible to get hardly anything done. And those are the times where I'm like, I just have to give in and just rest. But most of the time, I try to have 8 to 12 as my most productive time. And then I have my time for lunch. And then after lunch, from about 2 to 4, I'm kind of useless. It is my low energy time all my life. It's always been like that.
Okay. Yeah, mine is early afternoon too. That's if I can lay down like around between 1 and 2, if I can lay down for 30 minutes, I don't even have to take a nap. And some days I do need a nap, but a lot of times I don't even have to take a nap. I just need to rest.
Right.
And then I'm pretty much good to go for the rest of the day. But that's my low time as well. And it's been really helpful to not be working in a job that dictated my life and my schedule.
Right. And so knowing when my energy is high and low, I use that to time block tasks. So like I'll do my writing or big projects first thing in the morning, as long as I'm feeling okay enough. And then sometimes I get super in the zone and maybe it will last through the afternoon. Great. I just go with it because I know I'm not going to be able to do that every day.
Yeah.
Like one day I can be super productive. The next day I'm lucky if I post something to Facebook. So when I got that energy, I just go with it.
And how do you give yourself that grace?
I've still been working on that. I'm definitely a lot better than I used to be. I'm like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm going to re-energize. It's like I play video games. So I kind of think of it as waiting for your stamina to regenerate kind of thing, like in a video game. So that's basically what it is. It's just real life regaining your energy.
It's like plugging yourself back in, like when we have to recharge our phone.
Yeah.
It's like, much. Time out, I got to recharge this. And then once the battery's full, we can go again.
Mm-hmm. Except with chronic illness, the thing is we have less energy in general than just a regular person who doesn't have a chronic illness.
Right.
And so in our world, it's called, you have energy spoons. It's using spoons as an example for that. So maybe a regular person starts off with 12 spoons in the morning, and it may take them only 1 to 2 spoons to get ready, take a shower, get out the door. Well, for us, it might take us 3 or 4 spoons to their 1 or 2, depending on how we're feeling.
Yeah.
So
I've heard that analogy, and I think that is really a good one to understand that today is one of those days that I only have 5 spoons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I know for myself, and I observe this, and even with the people that I coach, I think women in particular tend to have too high of an expectation of themselves for what we can actually accomplish. You know, it's like the bar for everybody else, in our own minds, the bar for everybody else is lower, but the bar that we set for ourselves is like 10 bars higher than that. And if we don't meet that every single day, we beat ourselves up.
Yeah, and I think it's also because of a male-dominant world.
But men don't have to accomplish that much because they, right. I mean, honestly, they can't. They're not multitaskers, which multitasking isn't effective and efficient anyway.
Not at all.
But, you know, like they just naturally can't do that. They don't even go in that realm. And I wonder if that's one of those things that has hindered us. And yet that's also our magic, because mamas have to do the laundry and, mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of like there's something hardwired in women for that reason.
Right.
But I also wonder if that's kind of the thing, because men can go into work and focus on the task at hand, if that's kind of the thing that maybe has hindered women.
Well, our brains are always going.
Yeah.
Guys can just focus on whatever it is at the time and then shut off.
Yeah.
We can't
And they
just
do.
shut off like that.
And we can't be mad at them for doing that.
Yeah, it's just how we function differently. That's all.
Mm-hmm. And I also think that women, and I'm guilty on this one, I have to really, really pay attention to where I say no.
Mm-hmm.
I have to pay attention to the energy sucks in my life, which can involve other people, because there are emotional vampires that exist. And so I really have to manage that. There are certain people that I'm realizing that if they call me, I have to be like, all right, I can give you 30 minutes.
Right.
And I have to start prompting that phone call, because they will keep going. And it's a time suck for me. It's like, as long as I'm talking to you, I love talking to you and you have my full attention for this amount of time. But I have a life and I've got other things to do too. That's actually a yoga practice. That is stealing people's time when you overstep that boundary. But it goes both ways. We have to learn. I'm learning how to put that, like, okay, here's my boundary. This is my time.
Right.
And I got to go.
But it's a lot easier to put boundaries in place once you know what your priorities and values are.
Yes.
So
yes.
I feel like that is the foundation before you even try to do time management or goal setting. You got to know your priorities and values. And that changes over time, especially as you grow as a person, as your business grows, when life happens.
I am so glad you said that those change and adapt, because that is the truth. It is not, even our beliefs will change.
Oh, yeah.
And as those things are changing, that will rise up in our bodies. That'll create some tension in our bodies, because it's a form of stress. We may not acknowledge or recognize that, ooh, things are changing. I need to adapt my values right now. But that's really what's going on.
Exactly. Transition's hard.
Yeah, and it does. It shows up in our bodies. And when you have a chronic condition, that stress shows up right in your face. You can't, it shows up sooner. Other people can kind of dismiss it a little longer. We can't. It shows up right there, and we got to deal with it more quickly and move on.
And I think that can be a advantage for us too. We learn to adapt faster. We can,
because we have to
be more flexible. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We have to. And we have to be spot on with, these are the 3 things I'm going to accomplish today.
Yeah. No more than 3. And
that's it.
Because as long as you accomplish those 3 things, then whatever else you don't get done, it doesn't matter. Well, it matters, but those are your most important things that day.
Yeah.
To move forward. And that's all that matters in that moment.
I've recognized where my time wasters are, which can be energy sucks. We may think of them as things that are, it's like a distraction, that thing to kind of help us recharge. But in all reality, I've recognized that there are things that I was doing to waste time that were energy sucks.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes we just got to document all of that and track that so we know how it fluctuates throughout the day. And speaking of, to make that easier, I actually made a free template tracker. So your audience can do that. So I'll link that in the comments.
Perfect. We'll make sure that people know where they can find that and access that. So I see overcommitment as, this goes back to priorities, values, but I see overcommitment a lot. And I understand this in myself, and it's an overcommitment. It plays out in a lot of ways, not just in my time, but I see this and see this theme with a lot of people. It shows up in time. It shows up in finances. It shows up in just life. Mm-hmm. Time, it kind of goes back to time, but feeling overstretched with your energy, feeling overspent with your energy, because we're overfilling our time, overspending in our financial arena, taking on too much stuff physically, emotionally, and on our time, on our calendar.
Yeah, just because there's 24 hours in the day, and we all have the same 24 hours, no matter how successful you are or not, we all have the same hours. So I mean, you just respect each other's time, and it's the one asset we can't get back.
Right. Right. So what do you say to people who, because there is like, yeah, in theory, we can block out our time, but there are a lot of things that I think people neglect to think about or consider. Like the more things that we acquire, the more time and effort that actually takes, because we have to tend to those things.
Yeah.
So the bigger house you have, and I'm not knocking,
cleaning.
Exactly, the more time that's going to take to clean. The bigger yard you have, the more time that's going to take to tend to that. And I don't know that people factor in those things. Or the more stuff that we have, the more cars we have, the more that takes to take care of, the more paper clutter that piles up, the more we have to have the space for it.
Yeah, and the more physical clutter you have, the less mind space you have, because all you're doing is thinking and looking at everything, and it stresses you out.
Boom.
So I know it's not for everyone, but I am continuing on a minimalistic journey.
I know that's a big part of your story, and that's part of why I wanted to bring this in, because where I'm in my own personal life, I'm in this transition point of a potential move. And so in the process, I'm filtering through my stuff. And when I moved from Virginia back to Nebraska, I got rid of so much stuff. And let me tell you, that is a relief at this point. But it's time to declutter again, time to sift through things again to make that move easier. Cleaning out my significant, my person's house in the midst of that, because that's part of that transition. And then my grandma passed away. And so now we're also, in the space of needing to clean her house. So this is a big theme in my life right now, and something that is like right there of what are we really doing with our lives in accumulating stuff?
Yeah, I'm more about experiences and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. But you had to go through that process yourself. So tell us a little bit about that story, because I think that all plays into, just knowing you, that all plays into where you've come with productivity and energy and how this all works. That's another aspect of it.
And productivity kind of saved my life.
Yeah.
Literally. So, in 2015, early 2015, I had been in an abusive relationship for about 8 years, and I wasn't able to work. I mean, I owned the coffee drive-through with him, but besides like a couple dollar tips here and there, I didn't have any of my own finances. He controlled all the finances, so I wasn't able to have anything on my own. And I had all this junk left over that my parents made me take with me. And I had moved so many different times and hauled all this junk with me.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's all your physical baggage.
Because it's a reminder of your past.
Yeah.
It's a constant reminder.
Mm-hmm. And some memories are good to hang on to, but for the most part, it's not good to hold on to all of that, because you just hold yourself back too.
Yeah.
That's why you still have those memories.
Yeah.
And
in my world, that's the stuff that shows up in your body.
Yeah. So mid 2015, that same year, I had slowly been decluttering, getting rid of stuff. But at the same time, I was also finally starting to pack to get out. I still wasn't sure how I was going to go or where to go or anything. I just knew that since he was expecting me to get rid of a bunch of stuff anyway, that I was going to take advantage of that. So it wasn't really noticeable. So I got rid of about 85% of my stuff. Everything I have left is in my home office. Some things are still in boxes, but besides my clothes, everything I own is in this room. It's a 10 by 10 room. So, but just the whole, but once I got rid of all that physical clutter, it's like it gave me that extra mind space, that headspace I needed to emotionally be there, open up and leave finally.
Yeah. That's a powerful story right there. That's a pretty powerful one. Because yeah, I honestly, I don't even have words other than it's just like you're right. It saved your life.
Yeah. Because I had to make it easier to move faster.
Mm-hmm. Yep. When I left Virginia, that was because I was at an all-time health crisis. I came back to Nebraska to seek medical treatment, and I actually ended up in Denver at the Eating Recovery Center and at Denver Health because I was so emaciated. Like I couldn't hold food down. And I didn't have the energy. I did not have any energy to try to figure out how to pack and move. Thankfully, I had some really just wonderful friends. But one of the things that I did was I had this, you know what, this has been my Virginia life. It was all of the stuff I had accumulated in the 8.5 years that I lived there. And it was like, I am starting a new life. I don't need to take all of this with me. Mm-hmm. And so it was a pick and choose. Like I sold all my big stuff because I didn't want to haul or store. Oh, yeah. You can get new living room furniture. You can get a new bed. You can get new whatever. And yes, it's going to cost money, but I also kind of knew the scenario with my grandmas that, there was going to be furniture available.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be I'm not going to be in dire straits. And what was more important was getting my health and my life back. Mm-hmm. And that's one of those things that I just don't regret. There, every now and then I'm like, well, I wish I would have, if I'd have had that couch, I could have given it to, or, it's like every now and then I'll have these thoughts. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter.
No, it's just stuff.
And I wanted to create a mobile lifestyle. I wanted to create that laptop lifestyle so that I can work from the beach in Mexico. I can work from, the mountains in a cabin. I can work from a coffee shop. That's what I wanted to be able to do. And you can't do that when you have a ton of stuff. Mm-mm. And so that was also a driving force in just getting rid of stuff. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And then if you really want to keep this stuff, just take a picture of it.
Ooh, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
It takes up less stuff.
Yeah.
It takes up less space.
Yeah. Well, and I started this habit a while back, and I go in cycles with it where, like, if I buy a new shirt, I need to get rid of one.
Yep.
That way I can just kind of maintain what I've got. And I'm not overstretched with my stuff. And now's the time to filter out again. Partly because my body has changed sizes, and with Crohn's, people with Crohn's will tell you this, like you have to keep 3 different sizes on hand because your body changes and fluctuates. And so it's good to keep some basics in some different sizes. And it's annoying because of the space that it takes, but it is also kind of a practical thing in our world. And yeah. But now it's time to filter through some stuff again. So let's just kind of recap, because you highlighted on some tips. If you were going to give people 3 or 4, like 3 to 5 take-home tips in terms of managing their time, prioritizing energy, what would they be?
Know your priorities and values. Update those on a regular basis. Track your energy throughout the day.
We'll go back to that.
Time block, just so you have kind of a guideline to stay on. And it's okay to move things around as needed. So you've got some flexibility. And when you schedule your priorities, that flexibility is part of it. So it'll make it easier to shift it around.
Yeah.
And then all of that makes it easier to focus on what your goals actually are and when, and just enjoy the journey.
Mm-hmm. That's the big one right there. Enjoy it. We're meant to live.
Mm-hmm.
We're not meant to suffer. We need to live. And when we're saying yes to all these things that don't matter to us, or overextending because, oh, well, what will this person think of me? Or whatever the case may be, not empowering our kids to be smart enough to do things for themselves. That's a big one. Coming from higher ed, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. And I would be the perfect parent because I saw all of this. I tease. As the person with no children, I know exactly what needs to be done. But it's because I did observe those things and how it actually held those students back for a long, long time because their parents didn't. Their parents did everything for them. Moms, you don't need to do everything. You don't.
No.
So how can people find you? We'll have it in the notes, but where can people find you? And if they're interested in that 90-minute intensive like I had, how can they find you to get one of those?
You can go to my website, thesimplifiedoffice.com/intensives, and it'll be on that page. Otherwise, I'm the Simplified Office on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, everywhere.
Nice. Nice. Well, Jennifer, I think that's a good wrap. If you would like access to the document that Jennifer was talking about, that template that Jennifer was talking about, that link is in the show notes. I'm also going to upload that in my Facebook group called Blissed Body so that is accessible to the people that are in there. So if you're interested in joining that group, we talk about mind, body, soul, life connection. And that's kind of what we're working on, is how to inspire going from overextended, from survival to thriving, and using our body as that guide of how do I do that? How do I listen to my body? How do I listen to that stress and that fear in my life and use that as a tool? So if that's something that you would like to join, that will also be in the show notes. So we'd love to have you there. Yeah, and Jennifer's in there. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have her on the show. And we were going to try to do this as a Facebook Live as well, and that didn't quite work. But hey, life moves on. It's not worth stressing over. So if you are interested in learning more about how you can use your time to be more productive and effective in your own life, go to Jennifer. And she's been that 90 minutes with her. Even though I knew how to do that stuff, it really just kind of got me back on track. I needed that accountability, and I needed just that I needed to just do it. And sometimes that's all we need. So thanks for joining on Living from the Inside Out. I'm Holly Wade with Holly Wade Wellness, and today's guest was Jennifer Vaaler. Have a great rest of your week, and thanks for listening and joining. Hope you'll join again next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Thank you for joining us at Living from the Inside Out. Listen every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. To connect with Holly, just go to www.globalvoiceradio.com. Global Voice Radio is where your voice and your message is heard.